100 earthquakes per day, one magnitude 7 event every year, and a magnitude 8 or larger every 13 years. The seismicity along the route poses significant challenges to the construction of a natural gas pipeline. Most Alaskans felt the Denali Fault Line magnitude 7.9 earthquake that occurred on November 3rd, 2002. That fault slipped approximately 18 feet laterally and more than 3 feet vertically underneath taps. But not one drop of oil spilled from the pipeline. It failed safe. Why did it do that? Because 40 years ago, the very best technical experts designed and located taps. And we need that very best technical expertise again. And I know that we have it in this room, but we're going to have to use it. Innovative geological and geophysical engineering will be necessary to design this gas pipeline that crosses active faults so that it will also fail safe. The latest work by the State of Alaska Department of Geological and Geophysical Surveys indicates substantial recent activity along the highway route. Again, we have to get it right the first time. And I would think that at some point in time when they are ready, it would be useful for RDC to have the DGGS folks come and show you the work that they did last summer in the field along the Alaska Highway, because it's very interesting and it will show you some new fault lines that none of us knew existed as you go from Delta toward the border, just adding more complexity to the project. The economic challenges are, of course, of a grand scale. We've identified 5 major economic challenges for the project. First of all, who's going to finance the largest and most innovative natural gas transportation system ever constructed? Congress did authorize a loan guarantee of up to $18 billion, up to $18 billion in 2004 dollars that will be adjusted for inflation. The loan guarantee, however, is likely to be just one piece of the larger financial puzzle. Second, in order to construct a pipeline, it's imperative that we have the necessary infrastructure in place to stage all the manpower and materials for construction. In both the U.S. and Canada, we need to either upgrade or build new bridges, highways, airports, material sites, and maintenance camps to support the tens of thousands of workers, the extremely heavy equipment, and the heavy pipe, and the 2.5 million tons of steel that are needed to construct the pipeline. The latest estimates outline as much as $1 billion in projects just in Alaska when you look at the highway projects, the airports, the bridges, and the facilities. And there are not yet final firm updated figures for the Canadian side, but there certainly are a lot of projects needed that will also cost many hundreds of millions of dollars. It'll take 4 to 6 years to complete the infrastructure projects that are necessary to the gas line. They must be done before pipeline construction can actually begin. And both of the companies, if you look at their timelines at the moment, they show construction beginning in the 2016 range so that first gas can happen in 2018. In order for construction to start in 2016, the actual staging needs to happen within the year before. That means that this infrastructure has to be finished by 2015 at the very latest, so that the companies can begin that staging. We can't afford unnecessary delays in completing these upgrades. They will kill the pipeline project. So it's imperative that you, RDC, support front-loading the infrastructure and begin to engage in the conversation about the funding discussion, because I can tell you that the tariff for the pipeline cannot afford to have the infrastructure added to it, or this pipeline will not be a reality. There just isn't room in the margins to make that work. So somehow the state of Alaska, working with the federal government, is going to have to find the dollars to do the infrastructure and work with the Canadians to figure out how they're going to do the work on their side. The project, of course, also calls for a lot of steel. In input, Congress expressed the preference that such steel be sourced in North America. North American steel, the question is, are North American steel producers prepared to deliver 2.5 million tons of high-strength steel pipe? The good part is, at the moment, steel prices are going down, but we can't look at steel prices today. We have to look at what are steel prices going to be in the 2014 range when the final financing will actually be happening. Fourth economic challenge is finding and training the labor pool needed on both sides of the border. Remember I said that there's going to be more than 54 million man-hours of work, and that's mostly skilled labor. The workforce has to be trained and then retained throughout the pre-construction and construction. The great part is that we have an opportunity to train lots of people as we do these infrastructure projects that then can segue over to the pipeline, as well as having an opportunity to train if either ANGDA and the NSTAR bullet line are built ahead of the main line. Then, of course, there's the economics, and there's a great deal of discussion about the economics in the state right now, and it happened in the 1970s and again in the 1980s. The price of natural gas plunged, and our pipeline was put on the shelf. Why? Well, in the first place, natural gas was discovered in large quantities throughout Canada and also in the lower 48, and 4 LNG facilities were constructed in the U.S. They provided an adequate supply to meet the increased demand at that time. So it was considered each time that the Alaska pipeline was not really needed. I was pleased to see the comments last week by ConocoPhillips' president and CEO Jim Mulver regarding the pipeline project's economics. He discussed the fact that current gas prices have led ConocoPhillips to cut back on its Canadian operations, but he discounted that low prices are a roadblock to the pipeline project's development. His quote was, "You can't look at gas prices today. You have to look at gas prices 10 years from now." And that's a very important point. Prices are in flux. There's no doubt about that. There are many factors that can change them every day, every month, every year. Some of those factors are natural, some are man-made. But we can't chase gas prices any more than those of you who are pilots can chase the compass, or if you drive ships, you can't chase the compass. If we wait for the time to be exactly right, if we wait for prices to be great today, we won't be ready with the infrastructure and the FERC license to do the financing at the time to make this project happen. So we have to move forward now. Have to keep our eyes on that front loading that needs to be done. The technical and economic challenges are intriguing, but there are bigger challenges, and politics are at play. I'm pretty sure, in fact I know, that Congress didn't envision the competitive process that has evolved when they passed the legislation, the latest legislation in 2004. But the good news is that both Denali and TransCanada Alaska are excellent candidates, and they each bring unique strengths to the project. The competition has spurred fast-moving development, but only one pipeline is going to be built. So the key question remains, will the two competitors merge at some point? If so, when? The competition will become inefficient and costly at some point in the future. Federal agencies are prepared to deal with both projects for as long as necessary. It's not an ideal situation, as FERC has said, and it certainly will become inefficient as the agencies have to gear up to deal with two complete EISs and the massive costs and the massive manpower that it takes to do those. The next interesting piece of the puzzle is how the U.S. and Canadian federal governments and the state of Alaska and provincial and territorial governments, who all want to see the pipeline built, ensure that it happens. Will the governor, or the president, or the prime minister step in to break the gridlock and take control similar to the 1970s process? Will Congress take some action? With Governor Palin in cycle, how will Alaska state politics affect the state's actions? Inevitably, too, there will be local winners and losers as ports of entry and final routes are chosen. How will local and regional politics, always lively, both in Alaska and in Western Canada, affect the project? As well as that, 35 TCF is a lot of gas. It's enormous. However, to keep this project economic, all indications are we need more gas. So I'm going to say it 3 times too. April 14th, April 14th, April 14th. It's important that all Alaskans continue to spread the message exploration in Alaska is essential. We have to find 15 TCF and hopefully much more gas. We have to make this project economic. It won't happen if companies can't explore. The OCS, NPRA, even ANWR are all places that